At the start of the movie, we see a person named Hector where he has come back home from the market. He is searching for his wife Karra and finds her in the garden. He gives her the table she had ordered and tells her that he's going up to get some rest. In his room when he's resting, he gets a telephone call and answers it. He does not hear any voice on the other end. He tries to call it back the number and gets to know that it's a restricted terminal. He leaves a message saying that he got a call from this number and they should call him back. In the next scene, Hector is sitting in garden and looking around with his binoculars. While looking through with the binoculars, Hector sees beautiful girl in the forest and is amazed by her beauty. His wife tells him that she is going to the market to buy some grocery for dinner and has kept the table inside. Hector again tries to find the girl in the forest and is unable to do so. He decides to go look for her. On his way, he sees a dustbin and a cycle lying on the road. On reaching the forest, he sees some clothes lying on the ground and the same girl lying on the ground without any clothes. He's scared of seeing her like this and tries to wake her up by throwing some sticks at her. She does not respond, so he gets close to her to wake her up. When he reaches the girl, somebody attacks him from behind with scissors on his right hand. Hector gets scared and runs away from there into the forest. With the help of his binocular, he tries to see the person who has attacked him. He sees a person holding a scissor and with pink bandage around his face. The person copies Hector's action of binoculars and scares him. Hector runs from there and comes across a fence and decides to jump it. It is nighttime and he comes across a house and calls for help but gets no response. He then breaks the window and goes in. Inside the house, he sees a picture which is drawn on the back of the calendar. He finds a door behind the calendar, goes inside it. He finds some bandage to apply on his wound, and in the next room, he finds a walkie-talkie and tries to call someone for help. Some person answers the walkie-talkie and asks Hector what is he doing here. Hector tells him somebody was trying to kill him and he's badly injured. He requests the person for help, who tells Hector that he will try to call the police. Until that time, Hector should stay there. The person informs Hector that he is unable to make any calls and he sees a person with pink bandage coming near the house. Hector tells him he is the same person who has attacked him. The person tells Hector to come to his place, which is near the hill. Since he has cameras here, they can track attackers' movement. When going towards the house, the person tells Hector that the attacker is coming towards him and he should hurry up and reach him. Hector starts running and falls down. He gets up to see that he is near the house. The person talking to him on walkie-talkie comes out to get him. He tells Hector to come in the house since the attacker is about to reach them. Inside the house, he tells Hector to get into a machine and hide there. He tells Hector that he will close the machine from above and get inside with him to hide from the attacker. Hector sees the attacker had reached them in a car and sees him outside the window. He gets scared and goes inside the machine to hide from him. The person closes the machine but does not join in with Hector. In the next scene, when the machine opens, Hector comes out of it and is surprised to see it is daytime outside. The person is surprised to see Hector and asks him what is he doing in the machine and how did he get here. Hector is surprised to hear this and tells him that he was the one who told him to get into the machine. Hector goes outside and looks at his house. He is surprised to see his wife with another Hector in the garden. The person tells Hector that he has used the machine to travel back in time. The person in the garden is a past version of Hector. With the help of the machine, Hector was able to travel back few hours into the past. He entered the machine at night, and now is at daytime of the same day. Hector says that he wants to go back to his house, but the man tells him not to do so since it will complicate the situation. He takes Hector to the same house we saw before. He tells him to wait here till the other Hector leaves his house the same way he did. Hector asks him what is going on, and the person tries to explain him with the help of a drawing. He tells Hector that by using the machine there are now 2 Hectors present here. Hector 1 who is at the house and Hector 2 who is with him in this place. This drawing is same what Hector found before. Going forward, we will call this person as Hector 2 and the person at his home is Hector 1. He tells him that he will help to get Hector 1 in the machine at night only if he does not tell anyone about this place. He tells Hector 2 that he is a scientist and he works here and was not supposed to be here today, but he was feeling bored and decided to work. He tells Hector that he needs to go and prepare the machine and tells him to wait here. Hector decides to call at his home and check on his wife. We come to know the person who had called Hector 1 before was actually Hector 2. When the scientist comes to know about this, he gets angry on Hector. He tells him he should never talk with his past self. If anything changes and Hector 1 does not go in the machine, Hector 2 will be stuck here. He says he is going back to the machine to prepare it. Hector 2 decides to go outside to spend his time and finds a white car. While driving, he sees the same girl riding the bicycle he had seen in the forest and stops his car on the road. A red car comes from behind and pushes his car down the slope. Hector's car crashes into a tree and he gets injured badly. He decides to bandage his head with the help of bandages from his arm. After applying bandages, he comes to know that he is the same pink bandage person whom he saw in the forest before. The cycle girl has come to help him and ask him if he's okay. He tells her that he is fine and has applied those bandages to cover his injury. The girl tells him she will go and call the ambulance, but Hector asks her not leave him alone here. With the help of a scissor, the girl cuts off some extra bandages and help Hector to properly apply it. When she goes to get her cycle, Hector decides to steal the scissor. He asks the girl to come with him as he needs her help with something. The girl agrees and decides to leave her cycle near the dustbin. This is the same scene what we saw before. Hector finds a black coat near the dustbin and decides to wear it and go into the forest. Hector sees Hector 1 sitting in his garden looking out with binoculars. Hector 2 then threatens the girl to stand in a particular spot so that Hector 1 sees her and decides to come into the forest. We see that Hector 1 sees her through the binoculars and decides to find her in the forest. The girl decides to run from there and Hector runs after her. When he catches her and they both fall down the slope and the girl gets unconscious. Hector 2 carries her and brings her near a rock. He removes her entire clothes so that he can trick Hector 1 to come near her to help her. When Hector 1 is about to reach the girl, Hector 2 hides nearby. Hector 1 comes to save the girl and Hector 2 takes out his scissor and stabs Hector 1 in his arm the same way we saw before. Hector 1 runs in the jungle and Hector 2 goes after him. He then copies Hector 1's binocular action to scare him away. Hector 2 hears the girl scream and decides to check on her. He finds her missing and decides to go back to his house. When he tries to go upstairs, someone attacks him and he falls down the stairs. He goes back up and breaks into the room. He sees that someone has gone outside the window and onto the roof. He follows the person on the roof and tries to bring them down. He pulls the person's leg and the person falls off the roof and dies. Hector 2 sees that the person is none other than his wife Karra. He is shocked and starts crying on not believing what he has done. He calls the scientist on the walkie-talkie and tells him to anyhow call Hector 1 to the machine. He decides to take his wife's car to scientist. On reaching the house, he sees through the window to scare Hector 1. He decides to wait outside while Hector 1 uses the machine. The scientist comes outside and tells Hector 2 to come with him so he can run some tests on him. Hector 2 tells him that he needs to use the machine to go back again and goes inside. The scientist throws something outside and goes back inside. He tells Hector that the machine won't work since they have used all the energy to send Hector 1 back in time. Hector 2 does not believe him and tells him he will destroy the machine if he does not tell him the truth. He notices a part of the machine is missing and asks the scientist where it is. The scientist tells him that he threw the part outside. Hector 2 removes his bandages and tells the scientist to come outside with him. He says he has to go back in time so that he can prevent his wife's death. The scientist tells him not to do so. There will be 3 Hectors in the past and it will lead to things being out of control. Hector says that he just needs to follow Hector 2 and stop him from killing his wife. He then asked the scientist why did he throw the battery outside, as if he knew Hector 2 would ask him to travel back in time. The scientist tells him that Hector 3 had already told him about this and asked him to stop Hector 2 from using the time machine. The scientist told him that Hector 3 used the machine and came back in the past same day few seconds before Hector 1. He told the scientist to stop Hector 2 at any cost from going back again in time. The scientist tells him that if he goes back again in time, he will become Hector 3. He should not do so since Hector 3 has failed in his mission as told by him. Hector 2 finds the battery and hears the police car approaching. He then tells the scientist to send him back in time. They use the machine and Hector 2 goes back in time. The scientist is surprised to see him come out of the machine. He tells the scientist that he is Hector 3 and his machine works, and he needs to help Hector 2 to complete his mission. We see Hector 2 come out the machine and the scientist is surprised to see him. Hector 3 tells the scientist to go after him and calm him down. He says that he needs to reach his house before him. Hector 3 asks the scientist for a car to go after Hector 2. The scientist gives him a red color car. While driving, Hector 3 sees the girl on the bike and hides from her. When he sees Hector 2's car standing on the road, he purposely hits the car down the slope and also hits the dustbin on the road. This has all happened before also, but we now come to know who did it. His own car crashes and he gets badly injured. He calls up the scientist and informs him that he has failed in his mission. He tells him to stop the pink bandage Hector from using the machine. He sees the same girl in the forest and goes to her. The girl screams on seeing Hector 3 and his injured face. We now come to know why the girl had screamed before. Hector 3 tells her that he is also running away from the pink bandaged person and he is one who injured him. She tells him that she saw a house nearby and they should go there for help. This house is Hector's own house. They go inside the house and the girl asks Hector to rest while she looks for help. Karra is in the house and gets scared seeing Hector badly injured. She tells him that she saw a pink bandage man break into their house, so she called the police. He tells her to be quiet and come with him. He takes Karra into the tool shed and asks her to hide there. He takes out a ladder and goes to the first floor room to wait for Hector 2. When Hector 2 tries to come up the stairs, he hits him with the table and Hector 2 falls down the stairs. This scene is also same as before. He sees the girl is also hiding in another room. He goes to her room and tells her that they need to trick the pink bandaged man. He asks her to wear his wife's coat and cuts her hair short. He then tells her to go upstairs and wait on the roof for him. The girl runs upstairs and Hector 2 goes after her. Hector 3 goes outside and takes out his wife from the tool shed. He takes her in the garden and makes her sit on a chair, and he also sits beside her. She hears the girl fall down the roof, but Hector tells her to wait and not to anything. We see that the girl has died, but Hector 2 thought it was his wife. Hector 3 has managed to save his wife. Hector 2 decides to take his wife's car to the scientist to go after Hector 1 like he did before, and the movie ends here.